All right, next segment. I'll save the pieces from the first segment. How's that? Put it in with the brokes. Okay. There's always some brokes every week. Always a lot of broken ones. This is the same heat treat as before. Let's see, I think I'm going to make this the tip. Yep. This end I'm hitting on now will be the tip. I find it easier to make the thick in the beginning, to easier or quicker to make that thick part the tip if the thin part is wider. If the thin part is more narrow, then I can't make it the base, right? But if the thin part is wider, like most flakes, I do like to make the thicker part the tip. Although I've done it either way. Doesn't matter too much. If I'm going for speed or just expediency, I'll look at the flake and the general outline will tell me what's the tip and base. And I'll just go with the general shape instead of looking at the thickness or where the bulbar percussion is. Now this one doesn't look like it has any internal flaws, but we'll find out because I'm going to go as thin as possible for the time that I have. I'm not going to be setting up all these platforms perfectly. And I can tell when I need to sharpen or clean up this tip if it starts to produce really short flakes compared to what I was getting a little bit earlier. When it fills up with chips on the tip of the steel, it'll produce short flakes where normally it would produce long flakes. But you'll get used to that feeling only with practice. You won't know when you're new. So just, I guess, regularly clean up the tip even though it may not need it. It's just one little factor that you don't have to worry about if you keep it cleaned up. One of the hardest things for new people is to know if it's them or the stone or the tools that's failing. What is causing the failures? Is it them, the tools, or the stone, or some combination thereof? The more potential areas of failure that you can eliminate, the better. Can't eliminate yourself, of course, but the object is to eliminate your lack of experience. is one of those heat treats that it figures it does not want to do the long flake thing. Some stone responds much better to pressure than percussion, and the other way around sometimes. This one feels like it's responding better to pressure. But I'm going to attack the thick spots with percussion anyway. Some of you guys, are you keeping track of how many times I'm hitting in the same spot? I'm thinking I'm hitting in the same spot a lot, twice or maybe even 3 times to get a flake to remove in generally the same spot. Why does that matter? It matters in the overall scheme of things. If you're looking to produce points quickly, don't use a piece of stone that requires you to keep hitting over and over. It kind of wastes time. If you're worried about time. It'll hold true for the larger points too. If you have to keep hitting, you're really trying to drive home these flakes, and it doesn't always work on the first try. If you're working toward production, it's gonna cut back on your time. Now I have trouble with figuring out how long it's going to take me to do something. Usually it takes me twice as long to do something as I think it's going to take. But I don't even when I know that, I don't go, let me think really hard. How long is this going to take me? 30 minutes? I don't think, okay, an hour. Because I'm already thinking I'm factoring in the doubling of the time, but I'm usually not. And I'll look up at the clock and hang. I've been at it for an hour and I thought it was going to take me 30 minutes. So yeah, I've always had trouble with that. It is getting better though. Judging how long it's going to take me to do something. But it's amazing how long it's taken me to realize how much time I really spend on these. And since there's no shortcuts, the time it takes you to do it can be shortened, but it takes a while. It takes a while to be good enough to during certain stages of the process so that you don't need shortcuts. You just get faster during certain stages. That's the closest you're going to get to a shortcut. You're just going to be faster during certain processes. So this is the time where it gets a little bit boring, because all I'm doing is picking at it. I've noticed this is the stage when people are watching me nap, that they go get their coffee or they start talking about where they're going to get their stone. Their eyes start glazing over. They're thinking they've seen this a million times. Nothing to learn here. Just picking at the stone with the pressure flaker. But this stage is important. If you can set up a very regular biface, a very regular preform, it makes the finishing very much easier. Very much more easier. Very much more easy. Well, maybe not very much, but it does make it easier to finish up when you got a nice regular preform with no major defects. No curves, no step fractures, no big asymmetrical defects. The less damage control you need to do at the end, the better. Right? Right. So I'm just kind of thinning where I can and regularizing the edge where I can. This is a little step fracture near the tip that I usually get, because I'm thinking if I put too much pressure on the tip, I'm going to snap it off, but then the flakes don't go far enough. That sort of thing. You could spend a lot of time just specializing on how to finish off these tips. I think that's what I'll do. Try to become much better at finishing out the tips. It seems that I can get good results just by being very slow and methodical with the tips. So yeah, again, at any stage I can stop and say good enough, as long as it's sharp. Some of my old videos, you'll notice that I just keep going after I don't have to. You know, I'm already there. I'm already finished pretty much with the point, but I keep messing with it. I do that for the video, just to show you guys what it looks like when you keep messing with it. But I don't have to. I realize I don't have to keep messing with it at any stage. As long as it will fit on an arrow, I can stop. Unless I'm going for a certain arrowhead style. Right? Right. I'm being very careful because I can break this whole thing with just a little bit of pressure in the wrong spot. Now, there's eyewitness accounts that say that Native American nappers can make small points in about 20 minutes. It's already been 15 and something for this one, and I'm not even close. So either they're doing simple triangles or the napping is much faster, or both. If I try to nap really fast, I make a lot of mistakes. Of course, on the real ones, there's mistakes, so maybe they were not too concerned with the mistakes. Maybe the more mistakes you see and the more crudeness you see, maybe that's because it went really fast. They tried to make the point really fast. And it was an expert napper, but you know, you speed up the process on an expert napper, the point is going to look like it was made by a newbie. Yeah, I was trying to be careful with that flake removal, but I don't know. I think I took too much off. Anyway, so what if it's got a little bit of a curve in it? A little bit is okay, because I say so. Pickety pickety pick. Just put it on a stick. Camera's warning me, battery powered 15%. I don't plug it in usually when I'm filming because it overheats. But the temperature is going down. If it's above 90 degrees and I plug it into the charger, the camera will overheat when I'm doing the video. I think I have enough juice in the battery to complete this 30-minute segment, and then I'll plug it in. By that time, the temperature will have dropped a couple of degrees. I think it's in the 80s anyway. It was 100 or something yesterday in the shade. I'm so glad I don't have to live permanently in this Texas weather anymore. I've spent 30 years in Texas. Oh yes. So yeah, I'm just going to take my time on this one. I've got to get into the swing of things to make really, really thin, small points for some of these orders coming up. Okay, let's see. If I get too backed up, I'll just let you know. If you send me an email and you would like something done, I'll let you know if I'm too backed up, and I'll say I can't do it yet. We'll have to wait. I'm going to cook some rocks in a little while. I don't know if I'll do it here. Maybe I won't do it here. So maybe it'll take a week or so before I can cook some more rocks. I've got a batch of nice chert, but it needs to be heat treated. Hopefully it'll heat treat well. So I don't have to be scrounging for more. Yeah, the last batch didn't work that great. So you got any more? Got some other stuff, man? While I sit there and scratch at my elbows. You got more stuff, man? That last batch didn't heat up well. Or heat up okay, but I can't make what I want to make out of it. I'm itching to make these small delicate points again. Making small points again, isn't that what you started with? Yep. A lot of my old videos are just little points. Doing that again. So much less nerve-wracking than the bigger ones. I don't enjoy the bigger ones unless I'm working with the best material possible. I really whacked the crap out of those pieces of stone. And that means I'm on the edge of disaster. I see glare coming off of that stone. I cannot adjust the camera settings. That was pretty good. For thinning flake, but it didn't go all the way across, but I think I can pick that off with a spatula tool. Come on, I can do it one more time. I just need another nice flake across the middle there. I'm pretty sure I can pick off that step fracture. Yep, just pushing on the face with the spatula tool and kind of flicking it off at the same time. Push and flick, push and flick. Yeah, like that. It doesn't look all that great, but it's nice and flat. Now to get it thinner, I got to make it more narrow. But I think I'll go for one more pass on this backside. Yeah, that's pretty flat. On this side, well, there is a bulge right there. We'll see what happens. I might be able to take that bulge out with a nice, very well placed pressure flake later. Don't tell me it's getting dull already. If the tip of the tool is too rounded for what you want to do, you gotta sharpen it. You can tell when it's too rounded when it starts to slip on the stone. And if it's always slipping on the stone, just sharpen it. Keep sharpening it. Even if you end up with a really, really sharp point, if it's working, it's working. If you get slipping on the stone and you are sharpening the tip so much that you're bending the tip, then you have to clean the tip off. If that doesn't work and you're sliding off the platforms, either you're abrading too much or the stone you're working with is just difficult. But just try making it more pointy as the first option. And if it's not working to release flakes, after you clean it off and make it more pointy, then it might be the stone is just difficult. Alright, so I'm going to do a little pass over that thick spot on this side first, because I said I was going to flake on this side next, but I want to take care of that that bulgy spot and make it flat. Have to be very careful with the pressure flakes and make sure the pad is not going to break this thing. And do a sequential pass. Sometimes I use a ridge for my previous flake scar, sometimes I don't. But it's not too difficult to do a short pass like this with 4 or 5 flakes in a row. It's when you get down to the whole edge that it starts getting difficult, because the chances of a perfect flake every time are not that good. Alright, so I'll prepare the edge for the pass on the other side. This is just typical, this is just standard down pressure, and they release better when you do them in a row. Just the little bitty pops in a row, because the area is already kind of weak. When you pop a flake off, the surrounding area gets weak, and the next flake is easier to pop, pop, pop. If you do it randomly and not sequentially, they don't pop off as easily. And this sequential little trimming like this is seen on many different styles of points. The sequential trimming. And it gets to be habit forming, and your brain will default to this trimming method just naturally. So I think that's what happened in the past as well. Alright, so I should abrade for this next pass, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to avoid abrading this time, because it's going to be the final pass and I don't want it to be dull. It's more difficult, I think, to sharpen a miniature edge like this, or a delicate edge, than it is a bigger edge. Like with a bigger edge on a bigger point, I would abrade it for the last, even with the last pass. But for such a tiny point, I wanted to keep it sharp as possible, so I'm not going to abrade it before the next pass, which will be on the next segment. Okay.